I work in this building. My office is upstairs.
Then you should have said that before you acted suspicious.
Verify my file. Call building management.
Stop arguing.
I'm requesting a supervisor.
The marble floor made the cuffs sound louder. Not because the lobby was quiet, because stone has a way of amplifying humiliation. Attorney Jordan Miles stood in the center of the Atrium Tower lobby with his suit jacket still on and his briefcase hanging from one hand, like a weight he couldn't set down. The morning sun poured through 30 feet of glass, turning everything, plants, polished brass, the concierge desk, into reflections. And in those reflections, you could see it. A rookie officer tightening handcuffs on a man who didn't look confused, didn't look drunk, didn't look violent. He looked professional. He looked like the kind of person who had a meeting at 9 and a client call at 9:30. He looked like he belonged. "I'm telling you," Jordan said, voice steady but strained. "I work in this building. My office is upstairs." Officer Nolan Pierce didn't lift his eyes from the cuffs. "Then you should have said that before you started. Acting suspicious," he replied. Jordan blinked. "Suspicious?" Pierce's jaw tightened. "You were inside after hours," he said. "You didn't comply. You argued. That's suspicious." Jordan held still, not because he agreed, because he recognized the moment when the person with authority is no longer looking for truth. He's looking for obedience. Across the lobby, a security guard stood frozen, radio pressed to his chest, like a regret. Near the elevator bank, 2 early arriving employees watched with their mouths slightly open. And above them, quiet, indifferent, perfect, the lobby camera kept recording. Because that camera didn't care who Officer Pierce thought Jordan was. It cared what happened. And what happened was simple. A black lawyer in his own office building was handcuffed in public while he begged a rookie cop to verify facts. By the time the city cut a $2.4 million check, it wasn't paying for a misunderstanding. It was paying for the record, rewind. To the part of the story that always gets skipped when people see a viral clip. Jordan Miles wasn't a random guy in a suit. He wasn't a stranger wandering through a lobby. He was a partner at Miles & Harlow, a mid-size firm on the 14th floor of Atrium Tower, glass-walled conference rooms, shelves of casebooks, and a receptionist who kept a bowl of peppermints nobody ate. Jordan was 39, 6'2", the kind of quiet confidence you develop when your job is to speak for people who can't afford to be interrupted. He'd grown up in a neighborhood where police sirens were part of the soundtrack. His mother was a paralegal who used to bring him to the courthouse on weekends when she couldn't get childcare. He'd sit in the back of courtrooms, legs swinging, watching grown-ups argue about truth like it was a weapon. Jordan became a lawyer because he hated the way people with power talked over people without it. He didn't go into law for glamour. He went into it for leverage. And in the years before the lobby incident, he built a reputation, not for theatrics, for precision. He was the guy who walked into a hearing with a stack of Bodycam transcripts already highlighted. The guy who could recite policy language like scripture. The guy who didn't need to yell because his facts did the yelling. Which is why, on the morning Officer Pierce handcuffed him, Jordan wasn't just a man being embarrassed. He was a man who understood instantly that this moment had a legal shape, a timeline, a chain of decisions, a record that would either be written correctly or rewritten to protect someone. Atrium Tower was one of those downtown buildings that tries to feel like a hotel. Soft music in the lobby, a scent diffuser hidden near the planters, concierge staff in matching blazers, controlled access elevators that required a key fob, and a security desk that looked like it belonged in a museum. The building marketed itself as exclusive, but exclusive in practice often means one thing. Everyone is treated like a suspect until the building decides you aren't. Jordan didn't mind it. He liked controlled spaces. He liked predictability. And he'd been working there long enough to know the rhythms. Security guard shifts, peak hours, the lunch rush, the late-night cleaners who moved like shadows. He knew the head concierge by name. He knew which elevator was slow. He knew which lobby camera had a slight angle that caught the left side of the desk. And on that particular day, he also knew something else. The city was tense. 2 weeks earlier, a protest had spilled into downtown after a viral stop-and-frisk video. The mayor had promised reform, the police union had pushed back, and every institution in the city, hospitals, schools, office buildings, had quietly tightened security. They didn't call it fear, they called it precaution. Atrium Tower was no different. Security had recently adopted a new policy. Any unverified person in the lobby before 7 a.m. or after 7 p.m. should be challenged. If the person refuses to comply, call the police. It sounded reasonable, and until you realize how much power sits inside the phrase refuses to comply. Because compliance isn't a fact, it's a feeling, and feelings are where bias likes to hide. The day started ordinary. Jordan arrived early because he had a settlement conference at 10, a landlord-tenant case with a disabled client who'd been ignored for months until Jordan's letters started landing on the right desks. Jordan didn't want drama, he wanted resolution. He parked in the garage at 6:41 a.m., took the elevator up from the basement, walked into the lobby with a coffee in one hand and his briefcase in the other. The lobby was mostly empty. A maintenance worker mopped near the corner. The security desk was staffed by a guard Jordan had seen before, but didn't know well, a man named Curtis Bell, late 50s, a little weary, a guy who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else than policing a lobby. Jordan nodded as he passed. "Morning," he said. Curtis nodded back. "Morning." Normal. Then Jordan paused near the mailroom alcove. He needed to check a box. A client had dropped off documents the night before. Atrium Tower had a secure package cabinet system. Jordan punched in a code. The compartment clicked open. He pulled out a thick envelope, and that's when Curtis's posture changed. Not dramatically, just enough. A shift. Curtis's eyes lingered, Jordan noticed, but he didn't interpret it as danger. He interpreted it as routine security attention. He turned toward the elevator bank, and that's when the voice came from behind. "Sir," Curtis called. Jordan stopped. "Yes?" Curtis stood up. "Can I see your building badge?" he asked. Jordan's eyebrows lifted. His badge was clipped to his belt. His key fob was visible. "Sure," Jordan said, calm. He pointed down. "It's right here." Curtis didn't step closer. He didn't look. He said, "I need you to show it to me." Jordan held it up. Curtis squinted. Then he asked, "Where you headed?" Jordan kept his voice neutral. "My office," he said. 14th floor. Curtis hesitated. "Which company?" Jordan blinked. That question was weird. Not illegal, but weird. "I'm an attorney," Jordan said. "Miles and Harlow." Curtis's mouth tightened. "Never heard of it," he replied. Jordan exhaled. "Okay," he said, "but I've been here for years." Curtis held up a hand. "Just a second," he said. "We have policies." Jordan nodded. "Then scan my fob," he said. "It works. That's your verification." Curtis didn't scan it. He looked toward the concierge desk, then back at Jordan, and he said the sentence that turned a simple check into a confrontation. "I need you to wait right here," Curtis said. Jordan stared. "I'm not going anywhere," Jordan said, "but I'm also not being detained in my own building for no reason. If you need to verify, call the building manager or scan the fob." Curtis's face reddened slightly. "It's not detention," he said. "It's procedure. Procedure. That word is how people disguise control." Jordan felt the first spark of irritation. Not anger, a lawyer's irritation, the kind that comes when you hear language being used as a shield. Procedure is verification, Jordan said, not a power struggle. Curtis's jaw clenched. He glanced down the hallway toward the staff door. Then he reached for his radio. Jordan saw it. The instinct. Call for authority. And in that moment, Jordan made a decision. He didn't want to escalate, so he offered the simplest proof. He pulled out his phone. "Would you like me to call my receptionist?" he asked. "She'll confirm." Curtis snapped. "Put the phone away." Jordan froze. "You just asked for verification," Jordan said. "That's verification." Curtis's voice hardened. "I said put it away," he repeated. And now, in the lobby of a building Jordan paid to access, Jordan felt the air change. Because once someone starts giving orders, they're no longer asking, they're commanding. And when someone commands you, the question becomes, do they have the right? Curtis called the police. Not a dramatic call, a quiet one. But the words he used mattered. He said there was a suspicious male in the lobby. He said the male was refusing to comply. He said the male was agitated. Agitated. Jordan wasn't agitated. Jordan was controlled. But agitated is a word that turns a person into a problem. Dispatch sent an officer, Officer Nolan Pierce, rookie, still new enough to take every call like a test. Still new enough to trust dispatch language without questioning it. Still new enough to confuse command presence with competence. Pierce arrived at 6:52. He entered the lobby with the posture of someone expecting a threat. Jordan was standing near the elevator bank, holding his briefcase, waiting, not running, not hiding, just waiting. Pierce saw a black man in a suit. He saw a security guard pointing, and he made a decision in his head before he spoke. "Sir," Pierce called. "Come here." Jordan turned. "Good morning, officer," he said. "What seems to be the problem?" Pierce didn't answer. He stepped closer. "ID," he said. Jordan nodded. "Sure," he said. "It's in my wallet. I'm going to reach—" "Don't reach!" Pierce snapped. Jordan paused. He held his hands up slightly, palms visible. "Okay," he said. "How would you like me to do this?" Pierce's eyes narrowed. "Stop being difficult," he said. Jordan stared. "Difficult?" Pierce's voice rose just a notch. "You were reported as refusing to comply," he said. "Now comply." Jordan's jaw tightened. "Officer," he said, "I'm an attorney in this building. My key fob is on me. My badge is on me. The guard can scan it. You can scan it. You can call building management. I'm not a threat." Pierce looked at Curtis. Curtis nodded. That nod was a fuse, because it told Pierce who to believe. And once a young officer decides who to believe, the rest becomes performance. Pierce pointed toward the center of the lobby. "Step over there," he ordered. Jordan didn't move, not out of rebellion, out of principle. "I'm not moving to satisfy an order with no legal basis," he said calmly. "If you need to verify identity, verify it. Don't posture." Pierce's eyes flashed. "You want to argue?" Pierce said. Jordan's voice remained measured. "No," he said. "I want you to do your job correctly." That sentence, simple, calm, hit Pierce like an insult, because rookies often mistake correction for disrespect. Pierce stepped closer. "Turn around," he said. Jordan's eyebrows rose. "Are you detaining me?" Pierce's jaw tightened. "You're being detained until we figure out who you are," he said. Jordan exhaled. "I'm telling you who I am," he said, "and you have multiple ways to verify without handcuffs." Pierce reached for cuffs anyway, and that's the moment the lobby camera turned this into a case, because the camera captured Jordan's posture, hands visible, voice controlled, no threat. It captured Pierce's escalation. Cuffs first, verification later, the exact opposite of professional policing. "Officer," Jordan said, voice still steady. I am not resisting, but I am telling you you're about to commit a serious violation. Pierce didn't react. He cuffed Jordan, metal tightened around wrist. Jordan flinched slightly. Not pain. The shock of being treated like a suspect in his own workplace. Curtis watched, silent. The maintenance worker stopped mopping. A woman in business attire near the concierge desk covered her mouth, and somewhere behind the glass doors, morning commuters walked past, unaware that inside, a lawyer was being handcuffed for trying to go to work. Pierce pulled Jordan slightly toward the lobby bench. Sit, he ordered. Jordan took a slow breath. No, he said. Pierce's eyes widened. What did you say? Jordan kept his voice calm. I said no, he repeated. I'm not sitting in public in handcuffs for your convenience. Verify my identity, then remove the cuffs. Pierce's face flushed. He leaned in. You want to make this worse? He hissed. Jordan looked directly at the body camera. For the record, he said, I'm requesting a supervisor. The words supervisor are a turning key. Because supervisors change behavior, they introduce consequence. Pierce's radio crackled. He pressed it. Need a supervisor at Atrium Tower, he said. Detained subject refusing commands. Detained subject refusing commands. Jordan heard the narrative being built, and because he was an attorney, he knew something most people don't realize in real time. The first narrative often becomes the official narrative, unless you interrupt it. Jordan interrupted it. Officer, he said, I am not refusing lawful commands. I am refusing to be treated unlawfully. My name is Jordan Miles. My office is Miles and Harlow. Call the receptionist. Call the building manager. Check the elevator access logs. You are choosing not to. Pierce stared at him. Then he looked at Curtis. Curtis shifted, and finally, Curtis said something quiet. He did show a fob, Curtis admitted. Pierce's eyes narrowed. You said he refused, Pierce snapped. Curtis swallowed. He questioned it, Curtis said. Questioned. That's what this was. A man questioned a demand, and in response, the system punished him. The building manager arrived before the supervisor, a woman named Paige Lennox, clipboard, blazer, polished calm. She stepped into the lobby at 7:03, took one look at Jordan in cuffs, and her face changed. Not confusion, recognition. Jordan, she said. Jordan turned his head. Paige, he said evenly. Good morning. Paige looked at Pierce. What is happening? She asked. Pierce spoke fast. We got a report of a suspicious person refusing to comply, he said. We're verifying identity. Paige's jaw tightened. He's a tenant, she said. His firm has been here for years. Pierce hesitated. Jordan's voice was calm. My fob works, he said. Your logs will show it. Paige nodded. It does, she said. Pierce stared at her. Then he said, he wouldn't show ID. Jordan's eyes narrowed. I offered to retrieve it, he said. You told me not to reach. Paige turned her head slightly, looking from Pierce to Curtis. Curtis's face went red, because the trap was now visible. Demand something. Prevent the person from doing it. Call it non-compliance. Escalate. The supervisor arrived at 7:06. Sergeant Lyle Harwood. Older, tired eyes. The kind of sergeant who has seen too many bad decisions from too many young officers. Harwood stepped in, took one look at Jordan in cuffs, took one look at Paige, and his expression shifted. What's going on? He asked. Pierce launched into his narrative again. Harwood held up a hand. Stop, he said. Then he looked directly at Jordan. Sir, Harwood said, what's your name? Jordan didn't hesitate. Jordan Miles, he replied. Partner at Miles and Harlow, 14th floor. I'm in cuffs because I asked them to verify instead of ordering me around. Harwood's eyes flicked to Paige. She nodded. He's verified, she said. Harwood turned back to Pierce. Remove the cuffs, he ordered. Pierce hesitated. Harwood's voice hardened. Now! The cuffs came off. Metal clicked. Jordan rubbed his wrist once. A small red line already forming. Not a bruise. A mark. A reminder. Harwood looked at Jordan. Sir, he said, quieter. I apologize for the inconvenience. Jordan stared at him. Inconvenience? He repeated. Then, with the calm of someone who knew exactly what this meant, he said, Sergeant, your officer just handcuffed an attorney in his own office lobby because a security guard didn't recognize him. That's not an inconvenience. That's a violation. Harwood swallowed, because he knew Jordan was right, and because he knew the cameras had already decided the public story. Pierce tried to speak. Harwood cut him off. Not here, he said. Then he turned to Paige. Ma'am, Harwood said, can we review access logs? Paige nodded. Yes, she said. And the lobby cameras. Harwood's mouth tightened. Pierce shifted. Because rookies understand cameras in their bones. Cameras don't care how you felt. They care what you did. That morning, Jordan still went upstairs. He still held his settlement conference. He still spoke calmly to opposing counsel. He still acted like the cuffs never happened. Because professionals learn how to swallow stress and keep moving. But after the conference, Jordan sat at his desk and stared at his wrist. The red line had faded slightly, but something else had formed. A realization. This wasn't only about him. If it could happen to a lawyer in a suit, in a building with cameras, in a lobby full of witnesses, what happens to the people who don't have status, who don't have a building manager willing to speak up, who don't have a firm name on a directory? Jordan filed a complaint that afternoon. Not a vague complaint, a detailed one. He requested the Bodycam, the lobby footage, the security radio logs, the dispatch recording. He requested the incident report, and he wrote one sentence that would become the spine of the case. Verification was available and refused, because that's the entire issue, not safety, not danger. Refusal to verify. The department tried the usual language. They called it a misunderstanding. They said the officer was responding to a call. They said the situation was unclear, but the footage and logs were clear. They showed Jordan offering verification options. They showed Curtis escalating the situation with words like suspicious and refusing. They showed Pierce treating questioning as defiance. They showed cuffs applied before facts were checked. They showed Jordan's demeanor, controlled, calm, professional, and they showed one other detail that would later become the twist. Pierce recognized Jordan's name. It wasn't dramatic in the moment, just a flicker. When Harwood asked Jordan's name, and Jordan said, Miles, Pierce's eyes shifted, as if he had heard it before. He had, because weeks earlier, Jordan had filed a public records request related to a different case, a case involving Officer Pierce's training unit. Jordan wasn't suing Pierce, he wasn't even targeting him, but in the department's internal chatter, names circulate, and rookies hear them. Civil rights guy, troublemaker, policy lawyer, labels, and labels can trigger resentment. The lawsuit would later argue that Pierce didn't just misinterpret a call. He escalated with extra edge because he didn't like who Jordan represented, even if he didn't say it, even if it was subconscious, because bias doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just tightens the cuff. As the story spread, Atrium Tower's tenants got involved. A woman on the 9th floor emailed the building manager. I saw it, she wrote. He didn't do anything wrong. A different tenant wrote, security is profiling. Curtis Bell was suddenly the center of attention. He claimed he was just following policy, but policy wasn't what called police. Language did. The security policy said verify. Curtis used the word suspicious, and that word, in a lobby, is gasoline. Jordan filed suit. He didn't file it as a social media moment. He filed it like a professional. Unlawful detention, civil rights violations, defamation, emotional distress, failure to train and supervise, and he named the city, not just the officer. Because systems don't change when you isolate blame. They change when you make the institution pay. Discovery revealed what cities hate: patterns. There were prior complaints about Officer Pierce's tone. Not criminal, not headline level, but consistent. A training note that described him as quick to assert control. A field training officer's observation that Pierce interprets questioning as disrespect. A supervisor email recommending additional coaching on de-escalation. The department had kept him on patrol anyway. It also revealed that Atrium Tower security had called police multiple times for unrecognized individuals who turned out to be tenants. Not many, but enough. And the pattern of who got challenged was noticeable. Noticeable enough to make the city's attorneys uneasy. Because juries understand patterns. They understand when the same type of person keeps getting questioned. Depositions made it worse. Curtis Bell was asked why he didn't simply scan Jordan's fob. Curtis said he didn't want to get too close. He was asked what Jordan did that was agitated. Curtis described Jordan as argumentative, because he asked questions, because he insisted on verification, because he didn't submit. To wait right here, like a child in a principal's office. Then Officer Pierce was asked why he applied cuffs. Pierce said Jordan refused commands. He was asked what threat Jordan posed. Pierce said, unknown. In other words, no threat, just uncertainty. And the law does not allow handcuffs based on uncertainty, especially not in a lobby with verification tools all around. Public reaction flared when the lobby footage leaked. A clip of Jordan standing still. A clip of Pierce cuffing him. A clip of Harwood ordering cuffs removed. A clip of Jordan rubbing his wrist. And in the background, you could hear the soft lobby music still playing, like the building was trying to pretend it was all normal. People recognized the pattern fast. A professional black man treated like he didn't belong. A demand to prove. A refusal to verify. A punishment for questioning. The city tried to settle early, offer a smaller amount, offer training, offer an apology. Jordan's team didn't accept. Not because Jordan was chasing money, because he was chasing a record. He wanted policies. He wanted accountability. He wanted the building to change its procedures. He wanted the department to change its protocols. And he wanted the most important thing of all, a public acknowledgement that what happened was wrong. Negotiations escalated, not emotionally, legally, because as more evidence surfaced, the risk of a jury trial grew. A jury would see a calm lawyer in cuffs. A jury would hear suspicious male and compare it to partner at a law firm. A jury would hear that the building had fob scanners and didn't use them. A jury would hear that the officer had prior notes about tone and escalation. And a jury would ask a simple question that cities dread. If this is how they treat a lawyer in a lobby with cameras, what do they do when no one's watching? The settlement number, $2.4 million, arrived like a decision made by risk managers. Not a confession, no admission, the standard language. But the number spoke anyway. It said the city believed it could lose. It said the city believed the footage would hurt. And it said the city believed the safest outcome was to pay and change. Because money is the language institutions understand. The settlement included conditions. Policy updates requiring officers to attempt non-force verification before detention in access-controlled buildings. A new training module focused on command versus verification in low-threat encounters. Mandatory supervisor review of any detention initiated from private security, suspicious person calls. Bodycam audit triggers when cuffs are used without arrest, and for Atrium Tower, a revised security protocol requiring guards to scan fobs or contact building management before calling police for unrecognized individuals, a rule prohibiting subjective descriptors like agitated without specific behavior, and a requirement that all lobby interactions be logged and reviewable. Officer Pierce wasn't publicly fired in a dramatic press conference. Departments rarely do drama when they can do paperwork. He was reassigned, placed under supervision. Whether he stayed long-term became part of the administrative fog. But internally, everyone understood. The case became a cautionary tale, a story told to rookies in training rooms, a reminder that cuffs are not a substitute for conversation. Curtis Bell didn't become famous. He didn't want to, but he did face consequences. A formal write-up, mandatory bias training, and, most painfully, a new awareness. That one word, suspicious, can unleash a machine you can't control. Because once police are involved, the narrative becomes bigger than your lobby, bigger than your policy, bigger than your intent. Jordan kept his office. He kept his practice, he kept his calm, but he changed. Not into paranoia, into precision. He started documenting every security interaction. He started advising clients about private security calls the same way he advised them about traffic stops. He started insisting, publicly, that access-controlled buildings can't outsource bias to policy, because he'd lived the moment where policy became a pretext. Months later, at a legal conference, someone asked Jordan what the worst part was. They expected him to say the cuffs, or the stares, or the embarrassment. Jordan paused, then he said something quieter. The worst part, he replied, was how normal it felt to them. He let that sit. They didn't act like they were doing something extreme, he continued. They acted like it was procedure, like handcuffing a man before checking facts was just how the world works. That's the danger. Not one bad day. A culture that treats verification as optional, and that brings us back to the lobby. The marble floor, the quiet music, the cuffs clicking like stone was amplifying the truth. In that space, clean, expensive, designed to feel safe, a rookie officer decided control mattered more than correctness, and a security guard decided, "I don't recognize him," was enough to call police. The cameras recorded it. The city paid for it. And the lesson, $2.4 million worth, was written into policy, training, and the kind of public memory that doesn't fade as quickly as institutions hope. Because belonging should not be something you prove at your own office lobby, and verification should never come after the cuffs. Not in a courthouse, not on a street, not in a lobby where the directory literally has your name. So if you ever find yourself in a place you earned, a building you pay for, a job you worked for, a door you have keys to, and someone says, "Prove you belong," remember Jordan's story. Not because it's rare, because it's familiar. And because sometimes the only thing that turns a familiar injustice into an institutional lesson is a camera, a record, and a person calm enough to insist on the truth while everyone else tries to replace it with compliance.